We are going to make some crustless apple pie. It's a great ending to a delicious meal, and having it crustless, you just get the great rich flavors of apple and cinnamon combining together to give you a nice sweet, low calorie, low sugar content dessert. So we're starting it off with some beautiful jumbo Honeycrisp apples. You can use a lot of varieties of apples. Honeycrisp or Granny Smith are usually my favorite when I'm going to be baking because they still retain their shape and they don't turn into mush, and they still have a slight tang to them. Then we'll use some butter, rolled oats, so they're not instant oats, stevia, cinnamon, and for our utensils we'll need a baking sheet lined with parchment paper or aluminum foil. Again, it cuts down the mess that you have to clean up at the end. A mixing bowl, cutting board, a paring knife, and some measuring spoons. So let's get started. Our first step, we're going to take our apple and we're going to cut them in half. And we need to preheat our oven to 350. So let me do that real quick. Okay, so we're going to cut all 3 of our apples. And these have been washed. You always, when you get your produce from the store, I like to wash it just when I get home to make sure that we're getting all the possible germs and bacteria off before I put it in my fridge. You can do a vinegar and water soak and throw everything in at once. That's really easy to do when you get some of your bigger vegetables and your fruit. It won't give it a weird taste, and then you can just dry it off and put it in your fridge. So here we go. We have our apple half, and now we are going to cut out the centers. So I like to just make a V. And so you're just going to angle your knife so you get right here under the center and get the seeds out. So then you have a nice little apple. All right, so now we have our centers cut out of our apples. So we are going to do a Hasselback effect. So that means we're going to make skinny cuts throughout the top of our apple. So you're going to cut down, but not enough to where it's coming apart, just so that it's separated. And you're going to make the cuts about every 1/4 of an inch. And if you do cut all the way through, that's okay. And this effect you can, do on lots of different vegetables and throw them in the oven. The purpose of this is you can get more flavor inside, and it allows it to cook a little quicker too. So if you get in here and check it out, there is slight cuts along each ridge. Now that we have cut our apples, they're placed nicely on a sheet. We're going to take 2 tablespoons of butter and melt it and glaze the top of the apples. So you should be able to put it in the microwave for about 45 seconds, and that should melt the butter straight from the fridge easily. It is nice and melted, so we are just going to spoon it over the tops of our apples before we put it in the oven. So we are going to put our apples in the oven at 350 degrees for 20 minutes. And while this is baking, we're going to get started on our topping. So our topping consists of cinnamon, stevia, oats, and melted butter. So we're gonna melt this up again. This is 4 tablespoons of butter. All right, we have 2/3 cup of rolled oats. We're going to add them to the bowl. A 1/4 cup of stevia, and this is a substitution for regular sugar. So this is another diabetic friendly dessert that you can eat. So we just sprinkle that on top. And then you're going to do 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. So this is just regular ground cinnamon. And sprinkle that on the top. And I'm going to mix it together so we don't get any huge chunks of anything. So we'll get it nice and mixed, and then we're gonna add our butter. So this is 4 tablespoons of melted butter. And this is going to go on top of our apples before they're done cooking. So you want to get it fully mixed, and it can just set aside while you wait your 20 minutes. Okay, so our apples have been baking for 20 minutes. Our topping is ready to go, so we're gonna take these out of the oven. They smell delicious. So we are going to take our oats and get them in here. It's all right if it's a little messy. We are going to throw these back into the oven for 10 minutes to finish off, and then they will be ready. Our apples are finally done cooking, so we're going to plate them. So you'll just take 1 scoop, and if you notice how easily it just comes off, and then you can just plate them as such.